you. I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking about people that do that.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
you the real
Come on,
deal.
Joe.
No, I
You
get
hear
it.
this shit, man? You gotta keep this nigga.
See,
He brought it back. See, at least August 2nd. Come
I
on,
want you to use
man.
the bathroom. Now you gotta be tight again. Get off me.
An extra month. An extra month.
Right, give me extra
Come
money.
on, come on,
now.
Mark, turn it up now. You turn it up now. Come on, nigga. Come on, Mark. Oh, shit.
I'm not letting him leave. I mean, it's gonna cut into somebody's pay, but
Please.
Oh, don't start that.
see, so try to leave me alone.
Man, listen. I never really wanted to side with the audience when they complained about Flip barely participating, but hold up. Every time he actually opens his mouth, it usually turns into something personal aimed right at somebody else sitting on that couch. And let's be honest, that kind of moment is always going to grab attention because suddenly the room gets messy and now everybody watching is leaning forward thinking, okay, wait, what's about to happen next? So while the whole table is cracking jokes on Sasha, and yes, they are definitely cooking on Sasha's head, the funny part is most of those jokes are flying completely over her head. Flip starts pressing Sasha about her engagement numbers or the lack of them, then he keeps going, calling out her content, her direction, and even her purpose, as if all three are missing in action. But here's the thing, Marc still finds a way to slide in and start clowning Flip anyway, just to push his buttons and get him fired up. I caught something early on though. Flip stepped away and I'm sitting there like, wait, you contributed? Because half the time it feels like you don't contribute at all. When you're actually sitting there, it's almost like your presence disappears. The camera cuts don't help either because they keep panning away and catching those moments where you look totally checked out until the spotlight suddenly lands on you. So as I'm watching all this unfold, listen to this, I start realizing the audience might actually be onto something. But then Marc drops one of those slick little comments, and it reminded me of what I literally talked about on Patreon the other day with academics, calling out Marc's role on the pod and how he's quietly building a position where he's becoming hard to replace. For a second, I really thought Flip and Marc might have moved past their old podland tension, until Marc casually said, see, this right here is why you gotta keep him, talking about how Flip jumped into the Sasha situation. And trust me, Flip caught that immediately, but you could see him trying to calm himself down because he already said last time he's back beefing with Joe and Ian since they're trying to remind him who's really running things, and he clearly isn't trying to hear that right now. Marc just keeps pouring fuel on the fire, and if you pay attention, most of his jokes always circle back to the same topic, their jobs on the JBP. Because the last time Joe started talking about bringing in a new show or rotating people on and off the platform, Marc turned to Imani and said, hey, Imani, how you feel about that? Then he followed it up with the punchline, if anybody's getting replaced, it's probably you. And he ran that same angle again when Joe joked that Flip isn't going anywhere because he needs him. But then Joe added something interesting. Somebody's pay is gonna get cut, and that makes you pause for a second. Because if everyone on that stage is already getting paid while Flip is there, whose money would he actually be taking? Why would keeping him around suddenly affect somebody else's check? Oh, because Joe is hiring more people again. And listen, anytime a company keeps bringing in new hires when you thought your position was secure and there was no extra space, that's usually when people should start paying attention. So yeah, Marc might be playing it off like jokes, but it really feels like he's pushing to edge Flip out. At the same time, he's low-key positioning things so Imani ends up with less airtime. And don't think the shots toward Mona are accidental either. She definitely picked up on those little jabs. And if Mona even keeps showing up regularly moving forward, it probably won't be because she's fully secure in that spot. Because in my opinion, what's about to happen isn't a loud firing at all. But watch how this might play out. She'll still pop up here and there, kind of like how Flip appears right now, but those appearances slowly shift over to Patreon episodes instead of the main show. And the excuse? Oh, you already know the playbook. They'll say she showed up late or that the recording schedule changed. Next thing you know, they start filming earlier and earlier, and just like that, she's being edged out without anyone officially saying she's being pushed out. Then, at that point, we all have to step back and ask the real question. Hold up, is Marc's strategy actually working or not? Because from the way it looks, he's executing the exact blueprint he came there with. Not only positioning himself as the guy who can't be replaced, but also quietly tying his presence to the exits of the people he'd rather not sit next to. Now notice something important. He's not aiming at Ish or Ice. And that's because he understands how tight they are with Joe. But Melissa Ford? Yeah, that situation was different. And let's be honest about it. Out of everyone on that couch, Marc probably had the biggest reason to want Melissa Ford gone. The reason is simple. Marc usually has no problem speaking on almost any topic that comes up. But every single time Flip started digging into the situation involving Dr. Melissa and Melissa Ford, Marc would suddenly pivot the conversation somewhere else. And the energy in those moments told its own story. Because remember when a lot of us realized in real time, thanks to Jason Lee, that Marc and Melissa Ford had actually dated before? Yeah, once that came out, Marc's silence on the topic started making a lot more sense. His instinct was to avoid that entire conversation. So if anyone had motivation to remove someone from that environment, you could easily argue Marc Lamont Hill had the strongest one. Think about it from his perspective. Why would he want an ex sitting next to him on a show every week? Why would he want that kind of dynamic when he's also married and building a different life now? And let's be clear, I've watched enough of this space to understand something about Dr. Melissa Val. She's not the type to play around with situations like that, not even a little bit. Now, add another layer to it. Marc also has this quiet tension brewing with Flip, because once someone presses Marc publicly, he's not the type to just forget about it and move on. No, that kind of thing sticks with him. He remembers every little jab, and eventually he's gonna return the favor when the opportunity presents itself. And when you see him taking little shots at Imani, that might not be random either. Quiet as it's kept, Imani is the one who tossed that little fidget spinner at Marc during that awkward moment. And believe me, Marc didn't forget that. He didn't forget it at all. So from that point on, the mentality becomes simple. Do whatever you can to shift the dynamics around you. Push situations where certain people get less time. Make sure the environment slowly changes. And if somebody ends up replaced, removed, or quietly phased out, then guess what? The result still works in your favor. And here's another detail that caught my attention. Marc was the very first person to appear on that new show. When he stepped in and started moderating the conversations for Podwives, the show actually felt more structured and organized. The discussion improved almost immediately. And then, strangely enough, the show wrapped up not long after that. So you really have to pay attention to how Marc moves in these spaces. This isn't necessarily about intelligence, it's about strategy. People who operate like that gather information from everybody around them. Then, when the spotlight swings in their direction, they slide right out of it. But somehow they remain involved in everything. And honestly, Marc moderating Podwives is kind of hilarious when you think about it. Because one person you're definitely not going to see on that show is Dr. Melissa Val. And considering they're married, you'd assume she might appear there at some point, right? But that hasn't happened, not once. Which also makes me wonder about something else. Melissa Ford might not be the only woman Dr. Melissa Val had tension with behind the scenes. Now listen, that part is speculation, but it's something worth paying attention to moving forward. But hey, maybe I'm wrong about all of this. Maybe Flip and Marc are perfectly fine. Maybe Marc isn't trying to push anybody out. Maybe Flip isn't in danger at all because nobody is whispering in Joe's ear telling him Flip isn't needed. Maybe there's no real tension between them. Maybe Flip never got demoted and he's still making the same money. But I'm curious what y'all think about it. Is this actually a big deal, or are we just reading too much into the situation? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. And if you're new here, make sure you subscribe. And if you've already been rocking with the channel, then you already know how we move over here. We're just gonna keep pushing forward with these conversations. I appreciate every bit of support because the energy has been crazy lately. I'll catch y'all again later today. And before you go, make sure you check out the Patreon because I dropped some pretty strong commentary about Sasha over there. And trust me, I really want to hear what y'all think about that take. I'll see y'all over there. Peace.